Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Screen Watchers. My name is Dan Barrett. This is the Screen Watching Podcast. The podcast, as I'm sure you're well aware by this point, we review the new movies, we review the new TV shows. This week, my co-host Simon Foster, still gallivanting around the world. He's like one of those Chippendale Rescue Rangers, maybe even like a gummy bear, bouncing around here, there, and everywhere. Not with us this week. Where is he? Not sure. Let's just say Prague. I actually really just don't know where he is. He's somewhere around the world. He's not in this country. I know that for a fact. So, without Simon here, the cat will play. We have so much TV to get through this week. We're not going to even think about something called a movie. Like, there's a Guillermo del Toro movie playing on Netflix.com this week. It's called Frankenstein. Not even taking a look at it, because there is too much other TV to get through. What are we talking about? Where do I even begin? Okay, so look, I'm not, alphabetical order, no, I'm not going to do that. Otherwise, we start talking about All's Fair, which is the brand new Kim Kardashian legal drama. I guess that's where we're starting. Kim Kardashian legal drama. It's currently streaming on Hulu, which means in the US it's on Hulu. Internationally, it's in Disney Plus, but the Hulu section of Disney Plus. This is a new drama from Ryan Murphy, who's the guy that's made all sorts of TV shows that I generally hate. And this is a show which I absolutely hated, and it was affirming to me to look around the world and find that everybody else hates the show as well. It has been referred to by a number of TV critics as the worst TV program of 2025. Is it actually that bad? I will take a look at that on the podcast. Also, there's some stuff that's genuinely very good. I'm going to talk about the new Netflix drama. It's called Death by Lightning. It is about your favorite US president and mine, Garfield. We're going to talk about him, not the cat, the actual president. Death by Lightning, it's 4 episodes. I'm going to talk to you about why it actually defies the usual thing that I talk about on this podcast, which is, it's like a movie that's been, stretched out into way too many episodes, and it's only meeting an episode count. The thing is, there's only 4 episodes. It probably needed to be more. This is a wild development in the world of television we will discuss. What else? It's Her Fault. That's the name of the show. It's a Peacock original that's streaming here in Australia on BINGE. It is Sarah Snook. This is exactly the sort of TV show where you look at it and think, I've kind of seen this before. I'm sure that I've already seen a version of this starring Nicole Kidman. In fact, you kind of have. It seems like awards bait and one of these sort of prestige dramas that kind of looks good in a sizzle reel. But do you really actually want to watch it? Here's the thing with this program. You actually do want to watch this, and I will tell you why later on the podcast. Ghosts. There is an Australian version of Ghosts. We've seen this as a UK version. We've seen the American version. It's here in Australia. Is it any good? Stick around. We're going to discuss. And then there's a few other shows that I'm going to make a bit of a brief mention of. There's Robin Hood, which is the new take on... Wait a sec. Did you know there's a character called Robin Hood? I know. It's rare he's been brought to the screen, but they've somehow decided to give it a go. And so we're going to see the brand new Robin Hood show. We're going to discuss that. And Pluribus, which is on Apple TV+. I've got some thoughts. It is a jam-packed TV program. I usually barely get through one TV program in this podcast. Here I am about to discuss 35. Folks, it's going to be a good show. Stick around.
This is not like TV, only better.
Television! Teacher! Mother!
Secret lover.
What, that's it? That's your movie?
Well, I said that I had an idea for a movie.
Alright guys, I don't know what it is about this week, but there are, as I said, so many TV shows that have debuted, and also somehow I've seen a good bulk of them. We're going to start with Death by Lightning. It's currently streaming on Netflix. Let's play a clip. We'll come back on the other side.
There is an energy in the air. We're on the precipice of something desperately exciting.
I made a vow to end the rot in our party.
President James Garfield! All I want is to be a part of it.
Through most of the 2010s, there were 2 TV talents, like creators behind the scenes guys, who could not have been hotter. They're both very attractive men, but in terms of just career heat, David Benioff, D.B. Weiss, these 2 guys did the unthinkable. previously thought unthinkable. They took a very dense series of books from one George R.R. Martin, turned it into this little thing called Game of Thrones, turned it into a raging hot success. Game of Thrones, you've probably heard of it. So look, these guys could not have been absolutely hotter. So, towards the end of their run on Game of Thrones, so we're getting around to like the 2017-ish mark, HBO are like, hey, look, guys, maybe you want to create some other TV programs. They're like, yes, we're absolutely doing that. And then they've got this show called Confederate, which, look, I'm not even going to explain what that program's about, but it's an alternate timeline thing to the Civil World War and racism and the slaves, and it was kind of announced at a time where it did not necessarily really meet the cultural moment, let's say that. So look, that was maybe the first sort of moment where they kind of hit the wall a little bit. They had a Star Wars project, which was gifted to them by the fine people at Disney. It's currently 6-7 years after that was announced, and we have not seen that project. They also signed a deal with Netflix right at the end of the Game of Thrones, and they have gone off to produce one of your favorite shows and mine. That would be the Three Body Problem. That was a show which was hugely expensive to make, was received with moderate interest. Reviews were kind of okay around it, but not particularly that great. Audiences didn't really necessarily turn up for it. They announced that, the longer planned series we had, that was never really what we were thinking at all. Instead, it's really just going to be, what was it, like 2 or 3 seasons? I don't know. They definitely, it truncated. But as part of that Netflix deal, they also announced this thing called Death by Lightning. Now, Death by Lightning, they're on here as producers on here by name. I don't know they're necessarily showrunners on this by any means, but it's based on this book called a book called Destiny of the Republic by an author named Candace Millard. And this is based on the absolute true story of one James A. Garfield, who you will all remember as the 20th President of the United States. He's one of the couple of presidents that got assassinated during their time as president. So he was only in office for like about 7 or 8 months, gets capped, spends a couple of weeks dying, and eventually dies because, it's the 1800s and, bullet wounds aren't necessarily so easy to come back from at that point. So, who have we got in the show? This is probably the thing that really drives, I guess, attention around the program. You got these 2 leads. You got Michael Shannon playing James A. Garfield, and then playing the coward Charles A. Gattu, the gentleman that murdered Garfield, is Matthew McFadden, who we know from Succession. Now, both of them are in this. Both of them are doing stellar work. Both are doing some amazing beard work. Like, these guys have big, lush, gorgeous-looking beards, and you can recognize both of them. Okay, like, sometimes a man will have a big beard and it's like, I kind of don't know exactly who that is. You absolutely recognize Michael Shannon in this and Matthew McFadden from the outset. But also, so many other actors that you know and love are also in this, all wearing big, bushy, crazy beards. You've got Shea Wiggum, you've got Nick Offerman, who is less sort of properly beardy, but he's got these big mutton chops and like a big fancy moustache to go with it as well. I don't think I've actually seen Nick Offerman with big mutton chops before, but boy, you just kind of think that you have. Like, this is a natural, move for him. Who else you got here? You got Bradley Whitford, who, anytime there's something about the American presidency, for some reason you have to have Bradley Whitford in there. Whitford. Look, we've all loved him since A Night Out on the Town, or as people internationally call it, Adventures in Babysitting. He was too cool. He's great in this. Absolutely love him. But I really like Bradley Whitford in pretty much anything. Even though, like, most of the time he just plays a Bradley Whitford type. You got Betty Gilpin in this. She doesn't have the beard that everyone else has, but still she somehow makes it work in the program. And then you just got like all these other supporting actors come through. You've got, sorry, I'm just looking at a list here and I'm just trying to pull a couple of names out. Vondi Curtis Hall, who's playing Frederick Douglass. I've liked Vondi Curtis Hall since Chicago Hope back in the day. Also, really memorable turn on ER. Ben Miles is in this. Ben Miles, we all know from Coupling, but most recently we've seen him in Andor seasons 1 and 2. And like, even though he's wearing a fairly sort of big bushy beard in this one, I picked out Ben Miles almost immediately. They're so beady eyes. Who else have we got in here? Look, there's a whole bunch of people, very familiar faces running right through this, but very familiar looking beards. But look, what's kind of interesting in this one, it's 4 episodes. It is a series which completely contravenes my standard complaints about TV for the last 10, 15 years, which is they're making it for the episode order. There's not enough story. It's basically a movie that's been stretched out into TV form. This absolutely feels like something that probably should have been a movie, but also there is a compelling case for this to be a TV series, and a compelling case for this to be more than 4 episodes, which is what's been given to it. Now, there is way more story here than what we see in the 4 episodes, and so you have to wonder, why is there only 4 episodes? Because this is unusual. So look, there's 2 things maybe to sort of think about. One, there's a lot of star power here, and from both a executive producer standpoint, but then also in terms of on-air talent. Maybe it's just one of these things where maybe Netflix had lost interest in the project but still wanted to go ahead, and it was cheaper for them to go out there with these 4 episodes they've produced than for them to like cut and run on the series entirely. That's possible. Although I also think that's kind of crazy because the show, it's pretty funny, it's dramatic, tonally, it's a little all over the place, and that's a fair enough justification. But that also kind of works for the program. I really like the vibe of this program. Now, the reason why I suspect that it's only 4 episodes is because it's a series to do with the assassination of a president. It just kind of feels very political. We're dealing with the Republican Party, but it's actually the party that kind of becomes the Democrats, and it's that weird thing with the US parties over the years. So it's kind of just becomes a little bit sort of politically awkward, and it's at a time where, look, we've seen other streaming services cut and run from programs that have a little bit of political sensitivity issues, and I can't help but feel that's maybe played a role here, but I'm not sure exactly what's going on entirely. Like, it's kind of hard to nail down exactly what the issue is. The other thing, and this is what makes me think that maybe it's one of these things where they kind of lost a bit of faith in the series and didn't really want to spend too much cash on it, really. It's filmed overseas. Okay, so I'm trying to remember exactly where it was now, and as I speak, I'm rushing my eyes over a Wikipedia article to try to work out where the location was. I want to say it was in Budapest. Yeah, Budapest. It's one of those names that you kind of want to say, but you don't feel confident saying. They filmed it in Budapest, and like, how many American political dramas have filmed Budapest? Like, none. Especially something like this, which has a lot of outdoor location shooting. When you're watching this and you see all these people next to these sort of gorgeous-looking ornate buildings, you're like, okay, well, I mean, this could be Washington, D.C., but it's kind of strange that we're not seeing, like, the Capitol building from, you know, like, they're not seeing outside the Capitol or the White House or just all the other places you'd kind of expect a drama like this to be filmed. Instead, Budapest, it kind of has that vibe of, oh, they just went to Vancouver and filmed it up there. Like, it's got that kind of look about it, but also, like, you'd have to assume they chose Budapest because it's considerably cheaper up there. So if they are kind of cutting and running on this a little bit, like, Budapest makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I don't know, it's just kind of the 4 episodes of it makes it a little bit weird, and it's a little bit rushed. By the time that you're actually getting to the assassination and the fallout from it all, like, that's right there in that final episode, and you just haven't really had enough time to get to it. But anyway, Death by Lightning, absolutely give this one a look. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, but if you kind of like that sort of American political drama of sorts, and got a bit of a taste for the history, give it a look. I think that you're going to be richly rewarded. What else have we got here on the rundown? There's a very natural progression from Death by Lightning to It's Her Fault, which is a brand new Peacock drama series. It's set in Chicago, filmed in Australia. It's called It's Her Fault. It stars Australian's own Sarah Snook, famous for appearing alongside the aforementioned Matthew McFadden in a TV program called Succession. Let's watch a clip.
Bye, Mommy. Bye, sweetheart.
99% of the time when a child goes missing, it's a misunderstanding between parents, grandparents, nannies.
Hi, I'm Marissa. I'm here to pick up my son, Milo.
There's no Milo here.
But Milo's been missing for nearly 5 hours now. It's not a misunderstanding.
So look, from the outset of this show, it's very clear why it got made. You look at the cover art, you see people like Sarah Snook, Jake Lacey, Abby Elliott, Michael Pena, Dakota Fanning, lots of names. They all look very pensive and sad on the poster for it. You hear about the plot, which is about a mother who is time poor. She's got all the guilt that you've got when you're not necessarily able to spend as much time with your kid as you necessarily want to be able to. The kid has been kidnapped through essentially a orchestration of events which only really came about because she is so time poor. So she's already feeling guilty in life. You layer this in and it's like, oh my God. And wait a sec, what's the name of the show? All her fault. And this is the thing with the show. You look at the cast, you look at the cover art, you think about the premise of it, and immediately you know two things. One, it's going to have the acting, it's going to act the shit out of it, like it's going to just be a top-notch production in terms of that. You know that the script is going to be, like the entire thing is going to feel fairly prestige-y, and also you know that it's going to feel like a chore to press play on the app to start watching it. Like, there are so many of these programs, so many of them star Nicole Kidman. In fact, Nicole Kidman, let's go back to January 2024, she starred in Expats about a woman who is incredibly well-to-do, whose kid goes missing when the nanny's looking after her. Like, this is very much a genre of sorts. We've kind of seen this before, and you just kind of know what it is, and you know that it's probably going to be pretty good, but a lot of it's kind of like eating your vegetables. Do you necessarily want to watch the program? And I'm here to maybe say, yeah, I think you do actually want to watch this one. So it's absolutely all of those things. It's absolutely one of these programs where Sarah Snook's got her Emmy nomination that's going to be making its way to the Academy when it opens up. This is, I guess, maybe the sort of thing with this program, which is that it's 7-8 months sort of too early before nominations close for the Emmy Awards. It should certainly be part of the conversation. They got Sarah Snook in here doing some pretty good work. Jake Lacey, who I absolutely love. I am so into Jake Lacey. For years, I've really liked this guy. He's kind of had a bit of a moment after being in that first season of The White Lotus. People kind of recognize he exists as a person, but I just think this guy's great. And then you got like a pretty quality cast. But what works about this program is you got this compelling narrative. And look, I'll say, as the father of a young child, it freaks me out. This sort of thing I really struggle watching these days. Back in the day, I used to be cold-hearted and didn't give a damn. But these days, I'm feeling it. Plot-wise, narrative-wise, it all works. It's very tense, and they structure it really quite nicely. Thematically is where it maybe gets a bit more interesting and speaks directly to that idea of it's her fault, because you've got this mother who actually it's not even just necessarily the mother, but it's this idea that when something horrible goes wrong, in the instance here, the son of a family goes missing, suddenly everyone just wants to lay blame somewhere, and so the woman who got used as an excuse, and there's a bit more to it, and I'm not going to tip the hand too much as to what's going on there. She's, seems to be innocent, at least from the beginning. I've only seen the first episode, just to be clear. Where are we at? So there's this woman, and so they kind of want to start sort of laying blame at her feet. But you also start seeing some flashbacks of the Sarah Snook character and this woman, played by Abby Elliott. And what you see is kind of this thematic core that sort of runs through it, which is this idea of guilt. So one, in the modern moment where the kids disappeared and the parents are just freaking out, they all want to lay the blame somewhere. But it's also about the sort of internalized guilt of mothers and fathers who don't necessarily have enough time to spend with their kids, who are feeling that guilt anyway, but then there's the additional guilt that's layered onto them by the people who are able to spend a bit more time with their kids. And so they're always kind of expecting other parents to be able to spend a lot more time investing in the school community or into just the various little things here and there. And so you've got these sort of mothers who are active working mothers who are trying to balance their lives, be able to have it all, which is, have the family, have the career, which they should be able to, but they feel guilty. There's societal pressures on them, both in terms of the way they just feel about their own abilities to, be a good mum, but then also from these parents who are just expecting way too much of them, just generally as people. It's relatable, and I think that viewers will be like, oh my god, I absolutely get this, and they'll want to go along with it. The fact that this is playing around this sort of strong thematic core, which is so relatable, I think is the reason to watch this one. It's that combined with the fact that it's a pretty compelling narrative. It just kind of elevates this into feeling like, yes, it's prestige, but it's actually earned that prestige vibe. So many of these prestige dramas, they just kind of look like that prestige-y without actually having any sort of real substance to them. This is a really substantial TV drama. It's it's quality prestige. There's just enough trash in it for you to sort of just be super entertained by it at the same time. But it's a good one. Now, I do have a major quibble with this program, which is that As the show gets released, which is on the 6th of November 2025, literally just a couple of days ago in the Australian Parliament, we had the Australian federal government passing a law which means that international streaming services are going to have to, well, actually, all streaming services that have a certain volume of subscribers and are turning around a certain amount of revenue are going to have to start investing in Australian dramas. Now, one of the things that's kind of bothered me for a little while about this, there's a few things, but like specifically in this instance, one of the things that bothers me is, what is the reason for this legislation? And I'm getting somewhere with this, like, just relax. What is the purpose of this? Is this to prop up the Australian film industry and all the, like, producers and the crews? Like, is that why we're passing this legislation? Or is it to tell Australian stories? To my mind, if you're going to pass any sort of legislation like this, the number one thing at the top of the agenda needs to be, what are we doing to preserve local screen stories being told? Now, we've got productions like All Her Fault, which is an American production. It is predominantly a cast of American actors who are filmed in Melbourne for the majority. There's one sequence with the Abby Elliott character who we see walking around the streets of Chicago where this is supposedly set. We see the drone shots going over the bridges. Like, you know, we see some street art, which is clearly Chicago. Like, we know that we're in Chicago, but it's literally in the first episode, which again, the only one I've seen, it's literally like, you know, 90 seconds of seeing her in Chicago. The rest of it is all filmed in Melbourne. We're seeing the gum trees in the background of scenes. Like, it looks and feels like Melbourne. I immediately knew that this was a Sydney or Melbourne production when I was first watching it. I didn't know previously, but you can tell. And also the fact it's got Sarah Snook in it, who's an Australian actress, like that kind of, you know, it maybe tips its hand a little bit more than it otherwise would, but it just clearly feels like it's in Australia. And so you kind of have to wonder, what is the future of Australian stories? Well, Australian TV is basically just going to be this. American actors filmed in Australia with stories which don't reflect Australia. They reflect an American storytelling. A little bit frustrating. And so that was certainly on my mind while watching this. Should that ding the program? It's unfair to do that. Like, absolutely. Like, the show sort of stands on its own. It does feel a little bit weird being filmed in Melbourne, and maybe I'm a bit more sensitive to it being Australian. You know, I've got that sort of bias immediately. And I think about the last show I talked about, Death by Lightning, and it's like, well, that was filmed in Budapest, but also that feels a little bit odd as well. Like, you certainly feel it when these things are being filmed internationally, but being set like in a, you know, traditional American environment, because we kind of know what American environments look like. They look like Los Angeles or Atlanta or sometimes Vancouver. They don't necessarily look like Melbourne. They don't necessarily look like Budapest. But anyway, let's move on. I've got a bunch of other shows to get through. There is a new TV version in Australia for Ghosts, which we've seen the UK version, we've seen the Australian version, and now once you watch this clip, you'll have seen part of the Australian version.
I spy with my little eye something the colour of a woman.
This game's getting pretty abstract.
Oh, what have we got here then?
Ooh. She's new.
She's pretty. Hello.
She's vulnerable. We'll never have a better chance to strike.
Oh, well, it feels like a bit of a dog act, don't you reckon, boss?
Dogs don't act, they follow orders. Now be a good boy and do as I say.
Oi, Governor, why don't you leave the young lady alone?
Oh, that's a good idea. Thanks. Yeah, why don't you shut up?
Yeah, shut up! Shut your mouth!
Oh, sorry. It won't happen again.
Convicts.
Hey, boss, you know when the old bloke carked it, did you feel like not, good?
What? Of course not. We English suppress everything, including emotions. You're dead inside from all the violence and depravity of your legal profession. That's what makes you the perfect subordinate.
I've been called a lot of things in my time, but never have I been called perfect.
Now, stop asking existential questions and attack!
Yes, boss.
Australia now has its own version of Ghosts. Now, this is the TV format that we first saw coming out of the UK back in around, I'm going to say 2019. This was a sitcom. It only ran about 5 seasons, which in the UK means they made about 4 episodes. But Ghosts UK, this is a show which starred Charlotte Ritchie, which anytime that Charlotte Ritchie's in something, I'm absolutely there for it. I'm obsessed with Charlotte Ritchie, and I think for justifiable reasons. And then the rest of the cast, I don't know who any of them are, but like they're all fine. I know Charlotte Ritchie though. Now, Ghosts UK, it came along, and it was kind of a bit of a funny premise, and like it was perfectly fine. They then made the US version, which the couple of episodes I saw were very sort of broad and just had all the hallmarks of, you know, when people talk about it, something feels a bit American in like the most dismissive of ways. Like Ghosts America felt very much like that. I really didn't like that US version, but also the UK version, despite the fact it starred Charlotte Ritchie, I never saw more than like 4 or 5 episodes of it. Like, again, it's fine, I just wasn't really crazy for it. And the American one didn't do much for me, and so when it comes to the Australian one, I certainly gave it a look as a sense of obligation, more than actually being excited by it. And look, I'll say this, I enjoy the Australian version more than I did the American version. I think it's maybe a little bit more in line with, I guess, maybe just the vibe of the UK series. That said, it's still Ghosts as a format, and like it's fine, I guess. I'm just not going to stick around with it. Cast in this one, it's a few people that you might kind of recognise around the place. I didn't know the lead of this one, Tamala Shelton, who plays the Charlotte Ritchie character. She's fairly charming, but she's no Charlotte Ritchie. Like, that's just the reality of things. The name actor as part of all the ghosts that people would probably know is Mandy McIlheney, I think is how you pronounce her name. I kind of feel like maybe she was in like Love Child, and she's been in a bunch of like Australian productions like this last sort of 10 years. So she's certainly around the place. And then the only other person I really know from this is George Zhao, who is probably best known for appearing in the SBS sitcom The Family Law from a couple of years ago. And I mostly know him because I did a set visit and met the guy once, and he seemed very nice. But outside of that, it's not really a known cast, and you don't really need to know much else. Like, if you've seen the sitcom Ghosts, then you've seen this program. Like, it's not reinventing the wheel by any means. The premise of it, if you don't know the premise, you've got this girl named Kate. She's in a relationship with this guy. The two of them, they can't afford to buy a home, but she is the, what do you call when you inherit something? You're the inheritor? Is that the word I want? I'm not sure. Lost myself all of a sudden. Anyway, she inherits a family home. She's like the last sort of family member. Why she gets it and not her mum, who's also like around, I'm not really quite sure exactly what the deal is there, but I'm sure there's a reason that's written as the backstory. So, she inherits this place, and wait a sec, you may guess this by the name of the program, but this house is in fact haunted. She's the only people that can see the ghosts in the house. So her partner in this guy's name's Sean. He can't see the ghosts, and so hilarity is sure to ensue as you've got a whole bunch of different ghosts of people that have died on the property over the years. So in this one, you've got a woman who's an Irish potato famine survivor and former publican, someone who ran a pub from the 1800s. You got a former naval officer, you got a socialite from the early 1900s. You've got a vibrant 1980s aerobics instructor. You've got a Chinese-born miner from the Gold Rush era, and you've got a 1990s bikie. In the UK, US, I think they call them bikers, but, bikie. So, hilarity sure to ensue. It's fine. Again, it's just ghosts. Moving on, what else have we got this week? We've got, all right, let's talk about it. All's fair, Kim Kardashian, legal drama. Let's watch the clip.
Oh, Laura. Wow, it's you. Right this way. You're the best divorce lawyers in town.
I need you to tell us the whole story.
We got married when I was still an undergrad.
We were in love. It was all perfect. Except for this one small thing.
I trusted him.
How did this ever happen to me?
Now, if you've known me for any period of time, you probably know that I'm a big fan of The Good Wife. I just think that shows the absolute bee's knees. Now, not only was it one of the best TV legal dramas of all time, it's just a great TV drama generally. If you've never watched it, give it a go. The first couple of episodes, it's setting the table a little bit for the series. But once the show really gets going, it's just incredibly smart and just savvy television. Now, it's everything that All's Fair is not. The reason I mentioned The Good Wife is that there's this ongoing narrative thread. It kind of ebbs and flows throughout the run of the series, where the Diane Lockhart character, played by the great Christine Baranski, she wants to, like, she's chasing this idea of like an all-female firm where all the partners are women and they're really supportive of, you know, female clients, I guess. So she wants this to happen, and it never ends up happening for one reason or another through the show. But All's Fair runs with this as an idea. And so in the opening sequence to the first episode, which, look, I'm going to drop his name. Ryan Murphy directs the first episode. And Ryan Murphy, I'm not on his wavelength. Just putting that out there. And usually, if there's a Ryan Murphy show, I'll go, look, it's a Ryan Murphy show. I'm just going to sit this one out because I'm not going to enjoy it. Absolutely the case here. But it's kind of nice to see the world is very much with me on not caring for this TV program. We'll get to that in a moment. But the first episode of this one has the two series leads, played by one Naomi Watts, and in the stunt casting of 2025, Kim Kardashian. The two of them are lawyers who want to leave the firm that they're working for to launch an all-female law firm. They get the blessing of one of the female, well, I think the only female partner at the firm, played by Glenn Close, pretty big name. So she gives them their blessing, and then someone who's really just pissed off about this is a character played by Sarah Paulson. Again, a pretty big name for these sorts of shows, but not an unusual name to see attached to a Ryan Murphy production. She is just really ticked off that she wasn't invited to join the firm. So for the last 10 years, because the show picks up 10 years after that happened, she's been, you know, out to destroy them. You've got that. You've got a couple of other people. Niecy Nash Betts, who is a name that I keep on seeing around the place, and I still don't quite understand exactly who she is or why I should know. And then Tiana Taylor as well. Again, one of these names that I've kind of seen around the place, and I'm not quite sure exactly who she is. But you've got these two in support, and you've got... Sorry, I just got distracted entirely because I just started looking at who some of the guest stars on this one. It's a murderer's row of guest stars. Can I just give you some of the names of people guest starring on this program? Because this is not a cheap program. This is a very big, lavish, expensive legal drama with flashy camera movements and big sets and outdoor location shooting, and like there's some money behind this one. Some of the names that you're going to find in here: Grace Gummer, who's, again, like another Good Wife and Good Fight guest star. She regularly used to crop up in that series. Jack Davenport, Rick Springfield, David Paymer, Kevin Connolly, Stephen Pascal. Look, lots of these people, Kate Berlant, lots of the, James Remar, people of whom you kind of know, but like, you know, a lot of them are, who's that guy? I know him by face. Just looking down, there's a list of, on Wikipedia here, confirmed guest stars coming soon. Includes Brooke Shields and Jennifer Jason Leigh. All of this is to say, it feels like a Ryan Murphy production. There's just big guest stars and just kind of big names sort of cropping up through this. So you've got these two lawyers, and so they only take on women as, they're like divorce lawyers. So they only take on women as clients, and at that point, like, it's just kind of everything you expect this show to be. I don't even really know how to describe the program because there's just kind of nothing really to it. It's a very traditional legal drama, and to be completely honest, I was pretty skeptical about Kim Kardashian, and I wasn't really keen on the idea of Ryan Murphy as the director of this and co-writer of the first episode. I was immediately kind of off board on it, but I kind of wanted to like it. I was like, surprise me a little bit. Just give me a generic legal drama, and maybe I'll come along for the ride. But it really is just properly bad television. A lot's been said during the week about the fact that critics en masse have said, this is really, really bad TV. A lot of reviewers have said, this is the worst TV program of 2025. And having seen the first episode, I'm really pretty keen to just agree with her in that it's just really bad television. The performances across the board are just really, I wouldn't say they're muted because they're kind of a little bit over the top, but they're kind of over the top in just like a really boring, anemic kind of a way. Like, none of the characters really exhibit anything that is even close to being a personality, which is a big problem. It never feels like any of these characters have a sense of interiority to them. Like, they're not real people living in this world. And that's not necessarily always a problem, but when this show is as shallow as it is and has as little going on for it narratively as it does, like, you kind of want characters that you want to sort of root for and just have a bit of fun while watching. You don't really find fun in any of these characters at all. Like, they'll just say like the most sort of mundane, silly things, or things that kind of feel like expected of the character, as opposed to actually being legitimately something that a character might say or might feel or might... Like, there's just no humans in this program, is really what I'm getting at. So the review saying this is the worst show of the year, I think it might be. This is genuinely just really terrible television. I'm going to move on because I've talked too much in this podcast already, and I've got a bit of a cough, which I'm hoping to have edited out most of that from the podcast. A couple of other shows that have debuted this week. There is Robin Hood, which is a British series. It's the Robin Hood legend. It's classic Robin Hood, so it's not like they've tried contemporizing it at all. But it's maybe a little bit sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily darker, but it's dark-ish. And it's a little bit edgier than you necessarily would expect. There's a fair bit of nudity in the first episode. Stories being told about fairies in the forest. And there's like a lot of naked fairy action going on, which I hadn't really expected from a Robin Hood story. Is the show any good? I'm not actually entirely sure because I've only seen part of the first episode. I saw the nudity and I was like, oh my god, I've got to dedicate more time to this. Unfortunately, I just haven't had time this week to probably sit down. I was a bit sleepy when I started watching that first episode. But certainly, I want to come back to it. Reviews I've seen for it are a little bit middling, okay? But I think that there is a general consensus that people are interested in some of the ways they've tried sort of updating Robin Hood. Even if people kind of find it a bit silly that their characters in the show just call him Rob, as opposed to Robin, heaven forbid. And then finally, Pluribus, which is the series that I was desperate to be able to talk about on the podcast this week. Fortunately, I haven't been able to see it yet because Apple TV usually make everything available to me. This one wasn't made available. I put a request in, but I haven't given them enough time, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get the request through before the series goes live on the website later today. But this is... I struggle to talk about this one because there's a logline that's being given about it, which is about a woman who is generally, like, you know, the best people aren't necessarily people. She's sort of one of these people, but then, I'm not even sure I'm going to give away the logline for it because I'm not even sure how true it necessarily is. What I'll say about it is, this is the new series from Vince Gilligan. He's the guy that made Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. But before he did them, he did a little TV program called The X-Files. He ended up joining that program with what I'm pretty sure was the third or fourth season. But he got really involved in a lot of the mythology storytelling around The X-Files, which I know that, you know, once that series wrapped up, people look at those mythology episodes as being the weakest part of it. But certainly he was... You know what? He came into it in season 3, in an episode right towards the end of the third season, which I'm trying to remember exactly which one it was. It wasn't Wet Wired. Oh, gosh. Teenage me would be very disappointed in me right now, not being able to rattle off X-Files episodes I haven't seen in many years. But I do know he came in the third season at the very end. But he was responsible for a lot of mythology episodes. He wrote a lot of the memorable episodes from season 3 onwards. A lot of the fan favorites were Vince Gilligan episodes. When it came time to do the TV spin-off from the X-Files, and they spun off the Lone Gunman into their own series, he was one of the showrunners on that. He's got a very strong pedigree in terms of writing for high concept sci-fi television. But he also had the story idea for Better Call Saul, which has kept him busy and away from genre TV for a while. Now that he's had an opportunity to do his own show again, now Better Call Saul's finished up, he's looking very much to do the sort of stuff that he's passionate about, which appears to be like the sci-fi television stuff. So it's just interesting. He's back doing that. There's a lot of secrecy around this program, which is why I suspect that I wasn't provided the Apple TV screeners for it without asking for it. They haven't really said exactly what the program is. Rhea Seaborn, who's from Better Call Saul, she's the lead of the series, but I don't actually know who the other actors are, and they're not really talking it up. So I don't know if it's actually been announced anywhere or what the deal is, but there's just a lot of secrecy around the show. Critics who've seen it have called it one of the year's best TV dramas. I'm very keen to give it a look. But that might be a conversation for next week's podcast, which we had so many TV shows debut this week that were worth talking about. Next week, it's a little bit light on. So I think I'm going to talk about Pluribus then. We'll go into depth there. And until then, that probably brings us to the end of this here podcast. My name is Dan Barrett. You can find me on the internet at alwaysbewatching.com. It's a newsletter. It talks about TV, streaming, all the stuff that you might be interested in if you've watched a podcast like this. Check it out, alwaysbewatching.com. The podcast will be back next week. I'm pretty sure Simon Foster's back in the saddle next week. So if he is, there's a good chance we're talking about Frankenstein. Folks, this is the end of Screen Watching. We'll be back with the podcast next week. We'll see you then.